Beginning in the 1970s as a mail-order catalog, the Surfcaster has long been known as the source for hard-to-find surf fishing gear, and I've been personally shopping with them since the 1980s. They offer honest advice and the best recommendations regardless of your experience level, and will tailor their suggestions to what you actually need.
As you would expect from a business that's been serving the surfcasting community for 50 years, their prices are competitive and delivery is always quick and secure. They want you to have the best possible experience in the surf and have the knowledge and inventory to put the right gear in your hands to make that happen. So check out the Surfcaster at www.thesurfcaster.com, and if you're in the area, stop into their brand new brick and mortar store in Shelton, Connecticut. Toby, before we get started today, and maybe this should even be a full episode, but I was thinking, after we talked to Shelly the other day, and of course it's more than the other day for those listening, because this is coming out quite a bit after that, although not that far, I think. Anyways, it is amazing the time that we live in with the number of lures that we have and the options that we have in the surf. It is truly amazing. If you think about 50 years ago, right? Or even 40 years ago, right? 85. Let's go back to 85, which is 40 years ago. The options that we had compared to what we have now is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And I just wonder, we constantly, or at least I am constantly comparing my results to really special results and bites of years past. So like the Block Island Blitzes come up all the time, especially because I fish sand a lot and there's sand deals and stuff. Constantly, how does this compare? How, what would this be like? And, but I wonder, Toby, this is a question for you. And I have another thought too. Do you think that those anglers back then would do a lot better now? Forget about braid and, Van Stalls and all this stuff. If they had just the lures that we have? I would think they would have to have done much better.
So fishing in our time frame, if you took their body and put it in our time frame, or our lure selection and put it with them back then?
Our lure selection, put it back with them.
I don't know that they would do any better, because I still feel like those guys, the fishermen, they maximized what they had just like we do. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I do think we have too many options to a degree. It's not like we are fishing in a contained pond with, largemouth bass that are going to get used to seeing a chatterbait coming past their face, so they turn off of that. I don't think they're getting turned off of the lures. I think, if anything, perhaps just the fact that, they might have in certain scenarios been able to do a little better. Like if we've been able, and I cannot think of an example, off the top of my head now, but if there's some lure that we have now that just performs so much better in this little scenario, these exact conditions that they didn't have then, sure. But ultimately, like you look at, let's take the plastic minnow. Back then there was the Rebel, there was the Redfin, there was the Hellcat, Nils Master. There was like 6, let's say, maybe 8. Now there's like 80, but it's still the same damn thing.
Yeah,
but if they had an SP minnow, they'd have done better back then.
Look, I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I'm going to completely disagree. I'm going to push on you about this. First of all, I'm talking about era pre-needlefish. You're telling me that they wouldn't have done better if they had needlefishes earlier on? And second of all, it's also pre-darter. And third of all, and maybe here's the bit, because we're getting into darter needle era, right?
Darters were 60s.
Yeah, but not like the Super Strike, right?
Yeah, true. Super Strike didn't come out to the 80s. Yeah.
But forget about those. Forget about those. I know for a fact 2 things. My fishing, I would catch half the number of fish that I catch, probably less, if I didn't have soft plastics. That's first. Mm-hmm. And second of all, gliders. That's probably the biggest example for me. Because you could make an argument that like the bucktail and the tin, if that's all we had, we might be able to make work in a way where we have our soft plastics. I could hear that. I would listen to it. I would totally be judging you in my head, and I would be saying they have no idea what they're talking about. But I would listen to you, and I would accept the argument. But gliders, nothing like that existed. unless you can think of something. I mean, there's the banana, I guess.
Nah, it wasn't
That was later though.
widespread enough.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess the reason that I combat that in my head is that I don't use the glider a lot. I did for several years, but I don't throw it so much. I mean, I've packed, I pack the big Weston glider in my bag every single night. I've had it. It is it's stayed in my bag all year. It's actually only come out and been fished a handful of times. So I don't think that my lack of success this year is because I haven't thrown the glider. I think, my other thought with giving credit to, anglers that came before us, or we'll say the 1980s range that we use the example. I think good anglers, I don't like using good, but like that's the word,
Sharpies.
Anglers, what's that?
Sharpies.
Yeah, they're going to do just as well whether they've got one tool or 50 tools. They're going to figure it out. They're going to maximize what they're doing. I think, with you with the glide bait, if you didn't have the glide bait, you would figure something else out that you still did extremely well with.
I'm going to disagree.
I will give you the soft plastic one, though.
I'll
give you that one, because the closest they had to that was like the rubber eel, like the Felmley or Family, whatever I would say it, and like the J&J, but it looked like a real damn eel. But that didn't get widespread use. There was just that would be one that I could say might improve. And I'm trying to look at it objectively rather than the fact that, because I use it like mad, like the soft plastic eel type bait for me is the glide bait for you.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm trying not to look at it that way. I just think, because again, in the 80s, granted they didn't have the plastic darter, but they were darters.
Yeah. Well, let's go back even to like the 70s or the 60s then.
Yeah.
But here's my thing. This is what I think about, and I'm wondering what you think about this. Again, maybe this is like it's turning into an episode, but I just wanted to make a point. I want to make one more point at the end, but
yeah.
How many times have you been on a bite where you're not catching anything and you rotate to a plug and you start catching on that plug? And did that plug exist back then? Is kind of what my question is. So like for example, like I know recently you've had some success with the bottle darter. After you tried a bunch of other stuff, you went to that and you had success. I'll use myself for an example. I bet on a bite recently that was a needlefish bite, but you had to have just the right one. And so having 6 different kinds in your bag to rotate to find the right one each night, and it would literally vary night to night, not even like moon to moon. Those would increase my productivity. So that's why I think you're wrong.
Yeah.
That's why I think you're wrong.
Yeah.
You agree to disagree.
Yeah. Yeah, because again, I mean, when it really comes down to it, neither answer's right, neither answer's wrong, because we don't.
No, I'm always right. How dare you?
oh, yeah. So that.
Sorry.
But it's I maybe I just want to give credit to like that they just figured it out. They really maximized what they had, because I guess another thing with it is that if you were to ask someone, and I think like Dennis Navarro is popping into my head. I believe it. He's the one that said this. Like, what's the modern thing that you wish you had back then? He didn't go to all the plugs. He went to braid. And I know you said take braid off the equation. Right. So like I'm kind of thinking it there's someone who knew his shit back then, knows it now. And he's not saying, yo, if I had these 17 more lures, like he's on the no live bait needed kick right now. He's not like, yo, if I had those in the 80s on the Snowstorm Blitz, I'd have gotten 10 50s that night. So that's kind of like another way I'm working it through.
It's a good point. That's a good point. It's a valid point. You're still wrong, but
I'll accept that you're wrong in thinking I'm wrong.
Okay, perfect. I'm sorry you feel that way, right? That's the phrase.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's funny. I will say this, though, and this is actually more to the point of what I wanted to say. We have so many offerings, but it's pretty amazing that we have so many offerings that are easy to get and affordable. You know what I mean? And affordable means different things to different people. Mm-hmm. But I'm just thinking about, something like a Hydra Mineral or a Redfin that's so easy to get and so affordable. Or even like a 24/7 needlefish, which came up on our plug talk the other day. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a custom-made wood needlefish that's easy to get, completely consistent. The finish has only gotten better, and you can just get it whenever you need it. And you don't have to stockpile it. And all the Super Strike stuff, right? You don't have to stockpile it. You can just, when you need it, you get it. And, if you think about just those options and you add in the soft plastics, the availability we have of stuff you can get tomorrow is amazing. It really is. And I don't know if we're at the point of saturation, because I'm sure they felt that way 25 years ago or 30 years ago. But it does sort of feel like, what more could there be? And there is some things, because there's some things that I use that I don't really talk about. So I know that there are things.
A couple, yeah.
Yeah. So there are some things, but I don't know. I was just thinking about that the other day, because I was throwing the 24/7 needlefish into just ridiculous water. And I was like, I'm probably going to hang up and lose this. And I'm like, who cares? Because I can get another one, and they're so good, and I don't have to worry about it. And like, I didn't have to test 35 different Rebels and throw half of them away, and then hoard the 6 really good ones and worry, I'm going to have to buy 50 more. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It definitely some of the examples you throw out there that you can get legit viable surf lures from everything from your stupid big box store to your local tackle shop to, the Surfcaster, our sponsor. Like, they've got that type of stuff, when back in that time frame, like the Surfcaster and maybe a couple of of local shops was your only source.
Yeah.
And you had to hope that they had, like when the needlefish came around, nobody had it. You were trying to find a shop that did, and if someone in your crew or group found a shop that had them, they bought them all out and like divvied them up. So I mean, we don't, for the granted, there's some stuff that still is that exclusive or tough to find nowadays, but it's not.
But
like
then you
those
have places
things.
like the Surfcaster who actually have stuff that's super rare. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, besides like maybe some of the really, really rare stuff at the shows, you even can get your hands on, like a Lemire or an Allen's or something from the Surfcaster, because you know what I mean. So shout out to them. Shout out to them.
And the things that you can't get at the your average locations, you might not be able to get Plug Builder X's metal lip, but you can still get other one, or the needlefish example. You can still get a representation of that group of lures, that lure style, that lure type, readily, and that's definitely an advantage. I guess that I could definitely see as an advantage for us now on it.
Yeah. Well, there's half the episode. That was just off the top of my head. We hadn't talked about this at all, but I was just thinking about the other day, because I was fishing in some really sticky conditions, and I was like, throwaway lure, Super Strike, Redfin, 24/7, just like
not expendable, replaceable,
expendable. Yeah, exactly. Like, don't care if I lose this. Don't care if I lose this. I got a Mike's in my bag, and I'm like,
When I'm more worried about losing a plug because of the hooks I have on it than I am the plug itself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So
that's kind of a weird thing. I've had that happen to me recently. Like throwing the 24/7, and I've got these high-end hooks on it, and I'm like, if I lose this, I can get another plug. But now I got to put another order in somewhere for those hooks. Like, that's a weird thought process that I've been having lately.
It's a $3 hook that's on there or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. Maybe we'll talk about that at some point too. So actually, Toby,
I could fight you on that subject all day if we want to, but we could definitely get to where we meant to go with this episode.
Yeah, okay, we can get to where we meant to go. Maybe we'll circle back on this with even somebody who's 80 years old or something that has the knowledge.
Yeah, we should have Dennis back on this winter, and maybe just that question. Do a short with him and say,
"Oh, that's cool."
Pose that to him.
Yeah,
because again, I brought him up, and I enjoy having Dennis on. So if you're listening, Dennis, we'll be coming for you for that episode.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So you asked me a question in Surf Association about pounds versus inches, and I'll let you lead from there.
Yeah, so we got a question in from one of our listeners. They were talking about, they didn't pose the comment or question in the way that I presented it to you. They were commenting on why, in general, surfcasters are talking pounds when it should be inches and so on. So I presented to you the question, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the exact wording of how, but basically what is more important to you, inches or pounds with the striped bass? And Your answer did not surprise me. I will say.
There's only right. I said there's only one that matters, I think is what I said, and it's 50 pounds.
Yes.
I think that's what I said.
Yes. Yeah. That did not surprise me, and I felt, based on your answer, which I enjoyed your answer. I did. That time there was nothing wrong that you said.
I'm always right. I mean, we've already been down this road.
There you go. But we actually got some feedback on that subject, and it was something. I mean, that was one of the ones where I had hoped you almost flipped it and asked me the same question right back, because I've got I've written about the topic.
Well, why don't you go first then? Go first. Let me know. Same question.
I'm going. So I'm going to put it again for me. I'm not passing judgment on everybody else, but for me personally, inches means diddly squat, not a damn thing. It means absolutely nothing to me. It is pounds. Now that means, that doesn't mean I'm weighing every fish.
No.
Not by any extent of the imagination. I am not putting every single fish that I catch on the boga. I carry my 60-pound boga with me every time I go in the surf. I actually have forgotten to weigh some fish that I wish I had put on there. I've got too many that I wish I had actually known. But there is no, in my opinion, no substitute for pounds. And the shortest answer of it is because there is so much variation on length. There's no variation on the pounds. And what I mean is, you can catch a 40-inch striped bass that its weight can vary by 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah. It could be 16 pounds or it could be 36 pounds.
Yeah. And because of that variance, the fact it could be what I call, the lollipop fish. It's all head and a little skinny body going down to his tail like that at 40 inches. If I held up that fish that's 40 inches, not weighing, I'm supporting it properly for those, that are worried about lifting a fish and hurting. If I just show you that fish at 40 inches that weighs 16 pounds, and then I show you that same fish that is healthy, it's a football shape, is like charged up, ready to go, and it weighs 35 pounds. That secondary fish, the one that has the higher pounds, is the more impressive specimen. It's a more accurate representation of what that should be. It's a healthy fish.
That's
and the same point. You get to, I've caught a lot of fish over 50 inches. Not at a bragging level, but I'm saying I just legitimately have, because I have been in tournaments that were catch and release based on length. So I measured a lot of fish for several years. And of all of those fish over 50 inches, a surprisingly small number exceeded the 50-pound mark. And I'm saying that by none of them did. None of them in those tournaments. There's a couple that fall in that category that I wish I had weighed, but none of those that were 50 inches were 50 pounds or better. That were 50 pounds, 50 inches or more, none were 50 or better. So it just, because of that, that's why for me, inches is a derivation of needing to harvest a fish, and I don't give a crap about harvesting a fish. So there's another reason why I don't need to measure it.
Yeah.
And I'm not passing judgment on anyone who wants to. For me, again, this is all on me personally. Y'all could say I'm wrong. This is, other than your opinions, they're not always right.
Yeah, besides mine.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't think I got into it at that depth, but I totally agree with you about that. But the danger in saying this is that now everybody thinks they got to weigh their fish. Because when we talk about fish, we're constantly saying weights. 20 pounds, 25 pounds, 32 pounds, 38 pounds. And the assumption is that Jerry and Toby are putting the fish in the boga. That's not. No. We have tons of experience. We've caught so many fish that we're really good at guessing the weights. And when we look at the fish and we say 22, if that fish was 19, well, 19 is a bad example because it's under 20, so that kind of breaks the rule. But if that fish was 20 or if it was 26, it doesn't really matter to us. It doesn't matter. No. So we're just giving you a ballpark so you have a ballpark. So we do it all the time to each other privately. We'll be like, we were catching mid 20 pound pound class fish, so mid 20 pound class fish. These were 30 pound class fish. honestly, Toby, if you told me you're catching 30-pound class fish and every single one of you weighed was 28 to 29, I wouldn't be like, you're a liar. That's bullshit. They're 30-pound class fish. What you can't do, and I think that this is a absolute, it's bullshit, and you lose a peg of respect for me, is if you say this is a 30-pound fish or a 30-pound, whatever, and you call it a specific number and it's not.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't even think you can say about. I don't think you can say this fish was about 40 pounds. Yeah. You can say it's a 40-pound class, but you can't say, because then you're starting to insinuate that that's what it was.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can. Really quick, before I forget, I think the higher you go, the less leeway you get.
Yes.
So I don't think you can say 40-pound class fish unless you weigh them, for example.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I I'm thinking, our text will touch base when we kind of like use a little, we got into this or this, like we report back and forth to each other, text and stuff. And I do with a couple other guys that I'm, in my little group, and exactly that. I'll be like, I got 3 fish in the 20s and 1 in the low 30s, like that. I'm assuming no one I'm telling is like, you weighed 7 fish to come up with? I think, no, I probably weighed none of them. But like you said, we've seen enough fish. And over the years, I mean, I've been at this 40 years. Like I have in that time frame legitimately weighed enough fish, whether it was when you could harvest them at smaller sizes or I was checking size or what have you. And I also will calibrate like my brain every so often. I'll get a fish and I'll guess 26, and I will throw that fish on the boga. And I'll give it one quick lift. I'll look at it. I'll drop it back in. She's fine. She swims away. And I'm usually pretty damn close. If anything, I've calibrated my brain to underestimate.
So, yes. Same.
If I look at a fish and I think it's 35, it will actually go in my logbook as 32.
Yes.
Or a low 30. I would always push it down. And I've done that a lot. I mean, I was fishing with Joe Baggs one night, and I caught a couple of fish, and I was about to release fish, and he's like, oh, that's a nice fish. I'm like, I don't know, it's 28 pounds. He's like, dude, that's like 30s. I'm like, nah, man, this is 28 pounds all day. He's like, weigh it. I'm like, all right, well, sure. I gave it a quick check. Like, there's my calibration. And it was 34 pounds. But I was very happy that I wasn't saying it was 34, and then I'd weighed it and it was 28. I will take that all day, every day in my mind. And I'm gonna, I'm not gonna say others are right or wrong in their assumption, but I don't feel personally there is anything wrong with weighing fish on the boga. Now, before people freak out on that, I'm not saying weigh every fish. Yeah, some damage could occur over an average, etc. But for me, when I weigh a fish, I put on the boga, I boga the fish, I make sure she's ready, healthy. At that point, I have a kind of semi-revider. It's one lift. It is
one lift.
Light on it. I see it. If I don't see it,
that's it.
Unless it went over 40.
Yeah, right.
I'm putting her back down. Like if I'm thinking, oh man, this is and I already know that before I lifted the thing up in the first place. It's one lift, check it, and put it back in.
Yeah,
that's it. You know, the fish that the story I told on a recent episode of Aiden's 32, that was a quick one up. Looked, I saw 32, put it back down. It might have been 31. It might have been. I won't tell him, but maybe it was 33 or 34. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't
32.
Matter.
I'm in low 30s. I know my caliber is good to go. And like there's for a whole other debate. There's no science that's been done on the striped bass with boga being used and what it might do. Any of that assumption, any of that judgment that's being passed is assumption based on other species.
Yeah.
So
bonefish and barramundi mostly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, redfish. I see redfish getting boged freaking from a little rat one to like these, bull reds all the time go on the bogas. I'm not a redfish fisherman. I'm not involved in as much, but I don't see anybody giving those people a hard time. Like,
yeah.
And there's a lot of comparisons that are given of those two species. So I'm not concerned that I'm killing every fish over 30 pounds that I boga, but if I catch 10 over 30, I might boga 2. So even if I do, I'm still better than, I'm still doing fine.
And to that point, I think what you and I can both agree on, especially if the fish are under 35, is that we say inches means nothing. But honestly, for all of those fish, I feel a little bit more strongly about not using the boga than you do, which is fine. We don't have to agree on everything, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay then in that particular case to have the marks on your rod for inches. I do every 4 inches. So start at 38 is how I do it. And I go to 42, 46, 50, because the 50 mark, right? And then 54. And I'll just hold it up next to it. And I'm not going to try to get the tail off the ground and lay it down on the ground next to my rod. I'm just going to pull it up in the water next to my rod and be like, close enough, and I'll underestimate a little bit. Oh, it's at the 40 mark. I'll be like, it's the 38 and, whatever. Or I know I use 38 mark. But anyways.
Yeah.
And I think that that's okay because ultimately those don't matter. The only fish that really you should be weighing, really, in my opinion, and again, Toby and I are we don't mesh perfectly on this. I think that the fish you are weighing should be your personal best, if you think it's your personal best. If it's your first 30 or 35 of the season, it depends on what your threshold is for big. And if you think it's 40, if you legitimately think it's 40, I think it's okay. Because I think that as a surf angler, almost all of you are releasing like literally all of your fish. You're doing little damage. I know you guys are being responsible. The guys who are listening to this in particular, guys and gals. And so, if there's that special fish, you damn well better. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I mean, I've told this to Toby. This is a little bit of a sidebar, but when I get my 50, I'm getting a photo of it. There's not going to be an excuse. And I'm going to do anything that needs to be done to get a photo. And I'll leave it at that because I worked my whole life to get to that point and I personally have never eaten a striped bass and I've never kept a striped bass. So if something were to befall that 50-pound bass in the process, then I'm going to have to live with that. But for everything else, throw it up next to a mark on your rod. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
So
in that case, that's where inches are fine. But again, for the point of this, what actually means something for our record keeping, for our comparison, your personal with how your season's going, how it's, there's I'll end it on this. If anyone somehow broke into my computer, cracked the password code to get in there and dug 7 levels and found my logbook, there is not a single notation of inches listed anywhere in that. It's pounds.
That's very interesting. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
And this is going to sound like I'm throwing shade. It's going to sound like I'm being critical of these people, but I am one of these people. So keep that in mind, anyone who's listening. I've never in my life, and I know they're out there, so obviously this, I'm being a little sarcastic. I've never heard a fly guy list a pound, ever. It's only ever inches. It's like always inches. What is that? Why? What is that? Like, I don't know what that means. I was just thinking about it when you brought this topic up to me.
It's funny you said that because I was just asked the other night by a fly guy. I won't say his name. I'm not trying to throw shade on him, but he asked me because I'd mentioned fly fishing and where I am in the salt, and he asked me what my largest striped bass was since getting back into fly fishing a little bit in the surf, and I immediately came out with 17 pounds.
This has been a weekly edition of the Surfcast Podcast. You can find out more about the podcast at surfcastpodcast.com, or definitely check us out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, at the Surfcast Podcast.